The movie starts in the year 1979 in a small town, where a young 11-year-old boy is sitting on a swing. He is wearing a black suit. The boy's name is Joseph Lamb, also called Joe in the movie. He is staring at a locket that belongs to his mother. He is very upset because his mother is no more in this world. Some of his friends and guests attend her funeral at his house. His friends are Martin, Charles, Carrie, and Preston. While he is outside, he notices a yellow car stopping nearby his house. A man comes out of the car and goes towards the house to attend the funeral. As soon as the man enters the house, Joe hears some strange noise of two people fighting together. Suddenly, he sees two men coming out of the house. One of them is his dad, whose name is Deputy Jackson Lamb. He pushes the man out of his house. Joseph's dad is a police officer. He puts handcuffs on the man's wrist and forces him to sit in his car. He takes him away. 4 months later, Joe goes to school. His friend Charles is participating in a film festival and wants to make a short film for the competition. He informs Joe that he has chosen Alice Daynard to play the role of a heroine in his movie. He has talked to her about the film already and she will come over to Charles' house at night. In the evening, Joe comes home and looks for his dad. He finds out that his dad is sitting in the bathroom. He seems disturbed and is crying. He sees Joe and closes the bathroom door. Later, his dad takes him to have dinner in a restaurant. He speaks to Joe about a baseball camp. He asks him to stay at the baseball camp for 6 weeks as it will refresh his mind away from the recent stressful situation he went through. Joe resists going there as he had to work on his friend's movie. He is a makeup artist in Charles' movie. His dad makes him understand that he wants Joe to stay around kids who are good for him and not with kids who create a movie on zombies. At night, Joe is sitting and paints on his plastic models. Charles calls him on a walkie-talkie and asks him to come over with his makeup kit. Joe sneaks out of his house at night without informing his dad. Joe and his friends sit and wait for Alice to arrive in her car. Soon Alice arrives and she sees Joe. She is rude to him. She panics seeing him as he is the son of the deputy and Alice doesn't have a driving license. Alice doesn't trust Joe and thinks that he will complain to his dad about her illegal driving. Joe convinces her and assures her that he will not tell his dad about it. She agrees and asks them to sit in the car. Soon Joe and his friends arrive at their location for the shoot. They rehearse their dialogues and prepare for the shoot. Joe does Alice's makeup for the shoot. Charles sees a train arriving soon and he dictates everyone get ready and get their correct position for the shoot. He wants to capture a shot with a moving train in the background. The train moves in the background and Alice and Martin perfectly do their performance. Carrie shoots the scene and Joe holds the mic. Joe is not distracted by something and sees the train going away. He suddenly notices a car approaching the train from the opposite direction and it crashes into the train. The engine of the train bursts and everyone over there runs to save their lives. Luckily, no one gets hurt. After the accident, they all come out. They move closer to the crashed train and notice some strange cubes spread on the railway track. The cubes emerge from the train as it fell off its track due to the accident. They also see the car that crashed into the train. They see a man sitting in the car, who is unconscious. They come closer to the car and find out that the man's name is Dr. Woodward. He is their biology teacher in school. Dr. Woodward suddenly regains consciousness and sees some kids around him. The kids are startled to see him alive. He questions the kids about who they are and they tell him that they're his students from the school. Dr. Woodward takes out his revolver and says strange things. The kids are confused. Kids didn't understand who Dr. Woodward was referring to as they. Soon the kids see the Air Force appearing at the scene. Dr. Woodward advises them to run. The kids quickly sit in their car and go away. A man named Colonel Nellick arrives with the force. Alice drives everyone home while going back. They are horrified because of the accident. Alice regrets that she agreed to act in the movie. Alice gives Joe one of the cubes that they saw on the railway. She apologizes to him for her rude behavior earlier. The next morning, the train crash accident was all over the news. Joe goes to Charles' house and they see the news together. They get to know that Dr. Woodward is alive and is currently being treated in the hospital. An idea occurs to Charles about his movie. He discusses with Joe that they can finish the shoot using some shots filmed last night. They decide to film again at the location where the accident took place. Charles is afraid that Alice won't act in his movie again. She is scared because of the incident, but Joe assures him that he will try to convince her. Later, they both go to a shop to get their camera fixed. It turns out that the camera cannot be fixed and that they will not be able to shoot again. Joe tells Charles that they can use his dad's camera and complete the film. Charles knows the shopkeeper well. His name is Donnie. He is interested in Charles' sister. Charles asks Donnie to develop the remaining shots of the film from the broken camera. He informs Charles that it will be fixed in 3 days' time. Meanwhile, they are at the shop. Joe calls Alice and tries to convince her to completion of the film again. Alice hesitates and denies acting again. Joe goes to Alice's house. He tries to convince her again, but she again disagrees. Suddenly, Alice's dad arrives home. Joe notices that her father is the same person who came to his mother's funeral, but his dad arrested him. Her father's name is Louis Daynard. Louis is furious to see Joe at his house. He questions Alice about why he was there, to which she replies that he is inviting her to a party. Louis strictly refuses and shouts at Joe to never come to his house again. Louis goes inside the house while Alice follows him. She suddenly comes again and agrees to perform her role and help Charles to complete his film. Joe and his friends go to the same location to complete their film and shoot again. After the shoot, they go to a restaurant and discuss the incident which took place before. Charles warns everybody to not talk about the incident. On the other hand, the Air Force team collects the strange cubes, packs them, and loads it in the military truck. Joe's dad is also present at the scene. He tries to investigate and asks the colonel about the strange cubes, but the colonel does not tell him any information about them. Jackson goes to the police station and informs Sheriff Prude about the Air Force. The Air Force is telling them nothing about the accident. Colonel claims to carry the parts of the airplane and nothing else. Jack is suspicious about this matter and the sheriff makes him understand that it might be the airplane parts and they wouldn't be lying about it. He insists Sheriff Prude go over there and interrogate them, while the sheriff tells him to let them do whatever they are doing. He also advises him to stay with his son and relax for a while as he might be tired. Later, Sheriff Prude goes to the petrol pump to refill his car's tank. He suddenly notices some dogs barking and running away. He hears weird noises. The noises were coming from behind the bushes. He moves closer toward the bushes to see what was there. A strange entity jumps in front of him and the sheriff is horrified to see the monster. The strange creature attacks him and also crushes his car. The shop owner at the petrol pump doesn't hear anything as he is listening to music with his headphones on. Suddenly the store lights begin to fluctuate. The shop owner removes his headphones and comes out of the shop. He sees that the sheriff has disappeared and his car is also brutally crushed. He also encounters the strange creature. He screams and attempts to run away, but the creature catches and eliminates him. The next morning, Jackson appears at the grocery store to investigate the incident. He finds no clues about the sheriff or the shop owner's murder. He asks his colleague to file a missing report of both of them. Later, he visits a car agency where a person informs him that a lot of his car's engines are missing. Jackson asks if he doubts anyone. The man informs him that he thinks it is Louis Dinard. Some other people also tell him about their cars and truck missing engines. Jackson couldn't do anything about the engines as he can't bring the engines back in one day. He believed that behind all these incidents, the Air Force play a special part in it. Since the train accident took place, the Air Force is roaming in the town and strange incidents are taking place. In the evening, Joe goes out to find his dog called Lucy. He couldn't find her anywhere. He puts a missing poster of his dog. He sees the poster of a lot of dogs that went missing recently. He returns home and sees his dad sitting with other policemen. They discuss the Air Force and the strange cubes. Suddenly, the lights of the house fluctuate. Jackson calls the police station and asks about the lights. He gets to know that the lights are fluctuating in the whole town, but they don't know the reason behind it. An electrician comes into the area to fix the lights, but sadly the strange creature jumps out and attacks the electrician too. The next day, Jackson holds a meeting with the people of the town. He asks a question to everyone. A lady informs him that 20 ovens are missing from her inventory. The lights are also not working and some people are missing too. A man also participates and tells Jack that his radio is making strange noises that tend to come from the military. Jack meets the man and takes the radio to listen to the frequency coming from the radio. Later, he asks other police officers to play the frequency. Louis Dinard is also present there because he was caught in the doubt of stealing car engines. No such thing is proven against him, so the police decide to release him. While he is going away, he tells Jack that his son came to meet his daughter at his house. He alerts Jack to control his kid and make him stay away from his daughter. He goes away. Later, Joe does Alice's makeup and shows her his plastic models. While Jack is in the police station, he gets to know that someone who is not a local has found his dog and she is in another town. While he is looking into this matter, the frequency from the radio starts to come. Jackson learns about the military secret walking distance operation. The Air Force is investigating Dr. Woodward's house. While the kids complete their film at the location, suddenly Joe's dad appears over there and asks Joe to sit in the car. He takes his camera away from Charles and keeps it in his car. He meets Colonel Nellick and questions him again, but the colonel takes him lightly and refuses to tell him anything. Jackson mentions the operation is within walking distance. Colonel is shocked to hear about it as it was a secret operation, so he agrees to tell him everything. He invites Jack to his base, to which Jackson agrees. Afterward, Jack and Joe come home. He warns Joe to stay away from Alice. Joe tries to tell him that Alice is nice and a kind girl. Jack warns him again that he doesn't care about who she is, but her dad is a bad man, so stay away from Alice. Joe is upset about hearing this and starts crying. At night, he goes to his mother's grave. He sits and stares at his mom's locket. Suddenly, he hears strange voices coming from a nearby cottage. Hearing the voices, he immediately runs away. Jackson goes to Nellick's base. Suddenly, some soldiers point a gun toward him, take him to an empty room, and lock it. At the base, Nellick is questioning Dr. Woodward about the alien, but he doesn't tell him anything. Soon after, a soldier injects poison into Dr. Woodward's body and he stops breathing. That night, Alice sneaks into Joe's house to meet him as his dad took him away before. They are both talking about the film and the project when suddenly the projector turns on. The projector plays a video of Joe's mom. Alice sees that his mother loved him very much. Alice starts crying and confesses that his mother left this world because of her father. She confesses to Joe that her father was drunk, because of which he couldn't go to work. Instead, Joe's mother had to go in his place and an accident took place with her and his mom passed away. Suddenly, the cube that was on the table started to vibrate. It starts to fly and disappears, crashing into the wall. Both of them are surprised to see a strange thing happen. Soon, Alice returns home and she sees her father sitting and drinking. Her father asks her about where she was, but she ignores her. This makes Louis furious and shouts at her. He screams at her that she is just like her mom and better to go away. Alice starts to cry and leaves the house. She goes away on her cycle. Louis follows Alice and apologizes to her for what he said. Louis was drunk driving the car, which suddenly crashes into another car. He becomes severely injured. Alice sees the accident taking place and starts to cry. All of a sudden, the alien appears in front of Alice and she starts to scream. Hearing her voice, Louis comes out of his crashed car, but by that time the alien takes her away. Charles and Joe go to the shop to collect their developed film. They come home, but Charles doesn't talk to Joe. When Joe asks him why isn't he talking, Charles tells him that he used to like Alice from the start, but she has become good friends with Joe. He tells him that he selected Alice for the film so he could get a chance to talk to her when Joe came his way, and now she does not talk to Charles. Joe says sorry to him and that he did not do any of that thing on purpose. He also confesses that he likes Alice too. Charles forgives him and makes him understand that he doesn't have any issue that Joe talks to her, but he is concerned that Alice also seems to like him. After their talk, Charles plays the footage of the night when the train accident took place. In the footage, they witness the alien. The creature was evident in the video. They both do not believe their eyes. All of a sudden, they hear a loud voice of an alarm and they rush outside the house. They see people running everywhere. An emergency breaks out. They get to know that the people of the town would have to evacuate the town because of the fire. The fire can blow up the town as it was reaching to the Lillian chemical plant. While going to leave the town, Joe is concerned about his dad. He can't find him anywhere, nor anyone has seen him. He comes across Louis. He asks Louis about his dad. Louis grabs him and comprehends the incident which happened with his daughter. He lets Joe know that no one believes him and they keep giving him pills, assuming that he might be drunk or mentally ill. Joe assures him that he believes him. Joe quickly runs and tells his friends about Alice. They all seem surprised. They plan to save Alice, but some of his friends also believe that she might not be alive now. Charles goes to his sister named Jane. He asks her to do a favor for him. In return, he would babysit their younger siblings for a week. He also assures her that she can go to her friend's party. According to Charles' plan, his sister does what he asked her to do. She flirts with the shopkeeper named Donnie. He is the same camera fixer who was interested in Charles' sister. She confirms to him that they can be in a relationship if he helps her. Everything goes according to plan. With the help of Jane, Donnie asks the kids to sit in his car and they go to save Alice. According to Joe's plan, they first go to their school. They explore Dr. Woodward's locker where they find some documents and footage. They play the footage and get to know that the videos are from the incident in 1963. They learn that Dr. Woodward used to work with the military. He used to do different experiments on the strange cubes and the alien, while Nelek used to torture the alien. One day when he was passing by the alien's cage, the alien attacked him. The alien tried to convey to him a message that he wants to return to his planet. The alien wanted him to rebuild his ship. The kids get to know that Woodward wasn't trying to eliminate the alien, but he was trying to help him. But Nelek didn't listen. They get to learn the reason behind the train accident. Dr. Woodward purposely crashed his car with the train so that the alien will be released and can go back to where he came from. Suddenly, they're interrupted by the noise of a truck that was approaching the school. It was the military trucks. Donnie couldn't inform them about it because he took substance and fell asleep. The Air Force comes into the school. They catch the kids and inspect them. Soon Donnie informs the police that the Air Force has caught the kids. On the other hand, Jackson is still stuck in the room at the base. He comes up with a plan and calls the soldier. He asks him to unlock the door as he wanted to use the restroom. He knocks off the soldier and wears his uniform so that nobody notices. He carefully distracts other soldiers on the field and finally escapes. Soon he arrives at the place where the Air Force has kept the people of the town for evacuation. He meets his colleague and informs him that the Air Force set up the fire on purpose so that people can evacuate the town. He further informs him that the Air Force needs the town to be empty for some reason. He finds this matter very fishy and that the military was up to something very dangerous. His colleague alerts him about Joe. He tells Jackson that his son and his friends are in the hands of the military. Jackson rushes to Preston, Joe's friend who stayed back, and he asks him about their plan. While the military is taking the kids away with them in a bus, the alien attacks the bus. The bus turns upside down, but the kids manage to escape from the bus. They run and hide away to save themselves. The alien enters the bus and eliminates all the soldiers that were inside it, including Colonel Nelek. The alien goes away and the kids come out from their hidden places. They step near the bus. They see a car approaching them. It was Donnie. He is happy to them alive. Since Donnie was high on substance, Joe had to drive his car. They head towards the graveyard as, according to Dr. Woodward, the alien stays underneath the ground. Joe decides to head to the graveyard as he heard strange noises from the nearby cottage before. While they're heading toward the graveyard, they come across the military tanks. The tanks are firing everywhere. They couldn't move ahead in the car, so they get off the car and run. They come across explosions that were done by the military. They enter a house when suddenly a fire comes their way and hit the house. Martin, one of Joe's friends, falls to the ground and becomes unconscious. Charles decides to help Martin while Joe and Carrie go to the graveyard. They reach the graveyard and get into the cottage nearby. They break the cottage door and see a huge hole in the cottage floor. They assume that Alice is down there. They both go down into the hole and witness the missing people hanging upside down over there. They observe the alien eating a person. Joe spots Alice. They make a plan to distract the alien so that Joe can save Alice. Carrie goes away to distract the alien while Joe runs to rescue Alice. Joe finally saves Alice, but the alien eventually catches them. It lifts Joe and he encounters the alien. He isn't afraid of the alien. He assures the alien that bad things happen, but he can still live. The alien looks into his eyes and understands that he is just as broken as the alien because he wants to go home and Joe lost his mother. The alien drops Joe down on the ground and goes away. They come out from the hole and see a magnetic force attracting all the metal objects. The alien was making his ship by his force. On the other hand, Jackson and Louis are going to find Joe and Alice. Louis says sorry to him for what happened to his wife, but Jack tells him that it isn't his fault, but it was just an accident. They both arrive near the graveyard and see Joe and Alice. Both of them get the relief that the kids are safe. Jackson hugs Joe while Louis hugs Alice. They are happy to see each other. All of a sudden, Joe's mother's locket starts to go away as it was attracted by the alien's ship. He holds it tight but suddenly lets it go away. The locket sticks to the model with other metal objects. All of them stand outside and they see the alien go away in the ship that it prepared. With this scene, the movie ends. That's it for today. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell.